Hello, my name is Ross Shrek, and this is part three of strategic threat analysis. My topic is on phishing, so I'm going to start by defining what phishing is. It is a cybercrime that is a tool used to exploit human vulnerability through the use of deceptive tactics. What it can do is it can have significant effects on individuals, organizations, and even nation states by manipulating these victims into divulging sensitive information. One of the most serious threats that this poses is to network security, where it causes great harm to the privacy, information, and property security of individuals, organizations, and governments. Later in this paper, I will go over some significant statistics to support this. Some of the arguments, it has catastrophic effects on every kind of organization. It can severely damage the reputations of these organizations and individuals. Uh, what it does is it allows attackers to send out messages and emails where they pose as legitimate entities. And this can trick customers and employers into giving out information that they should otherwise not be. So once again, this can result in customer loss. It can tarnish a company's reputation. Um, it can cause system outages and disrupt operations of a company. It can make a company lose its value as a result of this. And it can also cause companies to impose, have imposed fines on them because of this. Also, artificial intelligence is playing a huge role in the progress of this type of criminal activity. What it does is it gives attackers the ability, other means, and more sophisticated ways in which they can dis- deceive people. And it's also making it incredibly difficult for us. When I say us, I mean citizens of this nation state to counter this activity. So the methods used in phishing, there are up to 19 known methods. I'm only going to cover a few of those, but I'll read off all 19. The first one is spear phishing. So spear being keyword here, spear phishing means when an individual of an organization is targeted. There's phishing, email phishing. This is also very common. It's when an email is sent to a would-be victim. The email contains some content that is uh, either harmful or deceptive in some way. There's HTTPS phishing, farming, pop-up phishing, also very common. Evil twin phishing, watering hole phishing, whaling. Whaling is like spear phishing, except it targets the executive of a company. There's clone phishing, deceptive phishing, social engineering, which I will elaborate on a little later. Angular phishing, smishing, man in the middle phishing, web spoofing, and domain spoofing. These are similar. These are also very common. It's where basically a fake website is made in order to try to extract information from individuals or companies. There's image phishing and search engine phishing, which is also quite common. They all, what they all have in common is they're all forms of phishing. However, they are all slightly different from one another. That's why we categorize them in certain ways. There are two experiments used when studying phishing and the effects that it has on people. The first method is laboratory experiments. Basically, what these are, they're controlled environments that are set up and participants being experimented are exposed to phishing scenarios. So this allows the testers to analyze the variables, the main variable, which is the participants, um, and the way that they respond to phishing scenarios. And then there are field studies. These are programs that test the effectiveness uh, that involve phishing awareness. So they're experiments that are conducted in real time on actual individuals in their natural environments. Both of these methods, these forms of experimentation return similar results, which I will get into later. The theories behind phishing. The first one is the theory of planned behavior. Um, this is the idea that behaviors are influenced to a level by intentions, and what these behaviors are, they're like attitudes, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. The second one is closely related. It's called social engineering, and this is the relation between among individual society and the state that they live in. It's based on the evolution of human societies. This goes all the way back to our tribal times. The reason people, for example, would gather together in groups for security. Um, and it sort of explains the way people act, the reason people act the way they do today. There's a theory of planned behavior. It's the idea that human behavior is exploited. There's social engineering. There's protection motivation theory, which is the idea that individuals are motivated to protect themselves against health threats. And then lastly, there's the elaboration of likelihood model. This explores ways that humans process stimuli differently and the ways the outcomes of these processes result in changing attitudes and behaviors. So the data that I came up with is for first off, in the public sector, employees accounted for 50% of targeted phishing attacks back in 2020, which was a significant rise since the year prior. There's been a massive embrace of online working environments, I think in part due to the COVID pandemic, which has made companies more reliable, more reliant on individuals' devices, which makes it harder for them to monitor. So the situation has, in other words, it's only worsened since the pandemic. So some of the results, the since especially since the pandemic, attackers have become more efficient and more diverse in their methods of attack. I think part of it is because it's becoming more widespread, but also because of AI. So AI is having a negative effect on the situation, but at the same time, it's having a positive effect because the governments are becoming less reliant on conventional ways of detecting phishing, and they're relying more on more sophisticated ways, which are produced by AI. And these tests have concluded that the major factor is the human element. So if you take the human element out of this, in other words, like a machine uh, would not be as vulnerable to these kinds of attacks. So here are some interesting statistics. First off, according to InfoSec, in 2016, 131 emails contained malware. I'm sorry, one out of 131. According to, let's see, the BEC, which is Business Email Compromise, these attacks were directed at over 400 businesses in a single day. And the anti-phishing work group in 2016 stated that there were over 250,000 attacks. So to summarize, worldwide, 62% of companies experienced phishing attacks. So the implications of my findings so far, developing nations are basically embracing new technology to try to counter phishing, but at the same time, uh, cyber criminals are doing the same thing. So they're learning to cope with this threat through the use of technologies such as AI. Um, Back in 2004 and 2005, they attempted to implement legislation, but it was not enacted, therefore we could not enforce it. This would directly um, address the issue of phishing by imposing fines on perpetrators or imprisoning them. But unfortunately, they were never enacted. And so we have to rely on state laws that directly address this issue. So on the national level, the only laws that really exist that can address phishing are addressed indirectly through examples such as assault on solicited pornography and marketing act. This law directly addresses the issue. Also, for example, payment card industry data security standard. This also indirectly addresses it. So there are a few federal level policies that are in place, which I think is a problem, and I hope that will change in the near future. Okay, so that concludes this presentation. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.